The lost city of Cibola and the legendary 7 cities of gold. Tales of lost legendary cities, forgotten civilizations and incalculable riches left behind by a people long gone, are the perfect ingredients for explorers to set out and venture out into the unknown. Since there have been accounts of written history, there have been accounts of lost cities and civilizations. Thousands of years ago, in the work of Plato for example, we find writings that speak of mythical lands, Atlantis, once inhabited by advanced ancient civilizations that could even predate written history as we know it. But Plato isn't the only one who wrote about lost civilizations and lost cities. The same can be found in the Mahabharata and other ancient texts written by the ancient Hindu thousands of years ago. Take Cibola for example. An ancient city said to have been built by a god and mentioned in some of the most sacred and ancient texts on earth, Mahabharata, the Srimad Bhagavad Gita, the Harivamsha as well as the Skanda Purana, and the Vishnu Purana. Until recently, the very existence of the ancient city of Cibola was a matter of legends and myths. However, as we have learned from history, myths and legends are divided by a thin line from reality. However, as we have learned, the city's ruins have been discovered 30 meters underwater, on what was once an island located on the western coast of India. Another great example is the ancient city of Heracleion, discovered just off the coast of Egypt. The city of Heracleion, not to be confused with the city of Heracleion, which is the largest city and the administrative capital of the island of Crete, is another ancient city shrouded in myth. Thought to be a mythical city for hundreds of years, Heracleion was swallowed by the Mediterranean Sea, buried by sand and mud for a period of over 1,200 years. Lost, legendary cities of America. When speaking about lost and legendary cities, we can't avoid speaking about Cibola and its legendary 7 cities of gold. Cibola is a legendary city full of riches, which during the colonial era was supposed to have been located somewhere in northern New Spain, in what is now northern Mexico and the southwestern United States. The medieval legend of the 7 cities originates with the invasion of the Moors to the Iberian Peninsula, where according to the story 7 bishops left from there and then settled in land located to the west, crossing the sea, where each would have erected their own city. The rediscovery of the American continent and the rumors about the existence of large cities in the north of the continent led Francis Marcos de Niza to affirm, without any further foundation, that the legendary 7 cities were hidden there, which eventually resulted in an intense search for the cities in the following years. But what I just wrote above is a brief, quick description of the alleged 7 cities of gold. However, the story behind the 7 cities is greater than you've ever imagined. In fact, the origins of the so-called 7 cities of gold can be traced back to the year 713. Original legend describes Cibola as being one of the 7 ancient cities of gold founded by 7 bishops who supposedly fled from the Iberian Peninsula when it fell into the hands of the Arabs. In what many consider the original version of the story, the bishops were Portuguese who had escaped the city of Porto and eventually settled on a distant island or land located somewhere to the west. This land was not accessible by foot, but could only be found by crossing the sea. The legend expanded later on. Eventually, the Spanish began popularizing another version of the legend, where the 7 bishops were not Portuguese, but original Spanish bishops from the city of Merida, who escaped in the year 713. 9 years after these bishops supposedly escaped the Iberian Peninsula, the process known as the Reconquest would start, concluding in 1492, when the Catholic kings managed to expulse the Moors out of Granada, thus recovering total control over the Iberian Peninsula. Curiously, the same year Christopher Columbus stumbles across America. In 1507, thanks to the Universalist Cosmographia, edited by Martin Wald Cibola, America is finally acknowledged and identified as a new continent, separated from Asia. Soon after, the discovery and conquest of the powerful Aztec Empire by Hernan Cortés demonstrates the existence of rich and advanced civilizations in the New World, which arouses the ambition of many Spanish conquerors. What followed after the discovery of America wasn't good for the natives. Soon after, Hernan Cortés would dominate the New World, conquering the mighty Aztec Empire, and at the same time, revealing to the old continent that there were very powerful and extremely wealthy civilizations in the New World. These stories, of unknown and wealthy civilizations in America, would soon wake the interest of explorers and conquerors who were eager to set foot on the American continent, looking for infinite riches. After the fall of the Mexica, more and more rumors began to circulate about the existence of rich and mighty empires to the north of the continent. The depiction of the departure from Mazatlan in the 16th century Codex Boccherini. Eventually, Coronado crossed the current state of Sonora in Mexico and entering the state of Arizona, and saw that the stories of Doniza were untrue. Coronado and his expedition had traveled and searched, but never found the incalculable wealth of which the friar had spoken of. Coronado expeditions finished when he and his expeditionaries arrived at Jorica Pueblo, referred to by the chroniclers as Cibola, Cibola, or Cibola. Upon arriving there, he discovered that Doniza's stories were lies and that there were no treasures whatsoever there, as the friar had described previously. Coronado also discovered that, contrary to the friar's stories, the sea was not within view from that region, but was instead many days' journey away. Disappointed, Coronado occupied the region by force and built a forward base that would be used for future explorations. The stories about the 7 cities of gold were soon forgotten, and time washed away the gold fever that had taken over many Spanish explorers, conquistadors, friars, and kings. And thank you for reading. I hope you enjoyed yet another article about a fascinating ancient legend. Stay tuned for more. Copyright Ancient Code. Unless otherwise stated by Ancient Code, no content published on www.ancientcode.com, www.ancientcode.s may be copied, distributed, published, rewritten or used in any way, in whole or in part, without prior written agreement from Ancient Code. That includes this article as well.